All right, we're good. Good evening, everybody. Appreciate you coming out to our January board meeting. We'll get started this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, if Mr. Caldwell doesn't mind.
Attention. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. And Mr. Jones, if you wouldn't mind reading the mission statement for Clay County Schools.
The mission of Clay County Schools is to build a high-quality learning environment that ensure all students learn at a high level.
And our announcements this evening, of course, our next regular board meeting will be February the 27th at 6 o'clock in here. And then I'm sure kids are excited that report cards are going home this week for the second quarter. So
We just want to make sure all the parents are aware of that. They're going home.
be on the lookout for those. Yeah. The next item is the approval of the agenda. It's been emailed to you, and you have one in front of you. There is one change to that before we approve it. Item number 8, the school uplift report that's on there, is going to be moved to February. So we'll take that item off the agenda for this evening. So with that one change, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the agenda. Mr. Caldwell.
I'll second it.
Ms. Crawford, second. All in favor? Thank you. Next is public comment. Do we have anybody that's signed up for public comment this evening? No? All right. So we'll move on to our recognitions, and Mr. Coles will start those for us.
Yes, the very first recognition that we wanted to take care of tonight is to recognize our Board of Education. This is National School Boards Appreciation Month, and each of the schools has kind of been working on providing something for the board members to show our appreciation. And I know that the newspaper was putting something together as well. But just on behalf of myself and the leadership team, we recognize the work that you guys put in. We know that sometimes politics isn't quite as much fun as people think it is. And, being community and public service is not always easy. And representing everyone's interest to the best of your ability is not always easy. But I've been here for a little over 3 years now, and I've just been so impressed with the way this board works together and works with the county commissioners to try to meet the needs of our students and our staff and our community at all times, no matter how difficult the circumstances may be. So we just wanted to let you know that we appreciated you. We also have, I think the principals were going to share some information with you, but Adrian, are you able to play that HPS video? And this is from the primary school.
Thank you for everything you do. Everything you do. Thank you for what you did for us.
So that was from Miss Fleming's crew. Miss Godfrey. Yeah. Are these the same for everybody?
They're all different, but yes, they're all the same.
You know who goes?
It doesn't matter.
Oh,
If you guys want to go ahead and open them, I'll tell you about them.
Thank you.
No, it's like,
So these gifts are from our 3rd through 5th grade elementary students that they made in art. They are monsters made out of clay, and they're all different, and you can set them on your desk and enjoy them. But I can't attribute them to one particular student. They work together in art class to make these for you. So you can use them as a paper clip holder or whatever suits you. We appreciate all that you do and hope you enjoy your.
Portraits of others were they?
They're lovely. So you may not know this, but Miss Reba Beck often helps us bring local artists in, and so because of that, our kids have gotten multiple opportunities to learn how to make different things out of clay. So I thought it would be appropriate for us to thank Miss Beck and along with all of you by using something from the pottery realm. Yes.
thank you, Ms. Dodd.
And Miss Rich will be sharing something with you, I guess, later on this week.
Friday, so look in your email.
And then, and of course, at the high school, there's going to be a recognition ceremony for the Board of Education members between the girls and boys basketball game Friday night, correct? Which is the 27th. So they're going to recognize you at a ball game, and so we hope that you can make it. And then just last of all, I have certificates for each of you, and I would like y'all to, if you would, just step up here in front of the desk, and we're going to take a picture to send in to the School Boards Association. If y'all just
Thank you all. It was very nice and very unexpected, so I appreciate it very much. And so next we have Miss Ravonda Palmer with CT internship students.
Hello, everybody. I am Ravonda Palmer. I'm the CT Director for Clay County Schools, and I'm happy to announce that we have had 5 students complete internships for the fall semester, and they are Jackson Lance, who completed an internship at Clay County Chamber of Commerce, Cameron Gray, Blue Ridge Mountain EMC, Nancy Lopez, Big Bear Veterinary Clinic, Dakota Heights, Sage Ground Works, and I don't think he could be with us tonight, and Addison Bunch at Remax Realty of Murphy, and they are going to take just a few minutes, well, a minute or two, to share with you their internship experiences through their CTE pathways. So, Mr. Lance, you're up.
Howdy, everybody. I Jackson Lance, obviously, #1 on the board, #1 everywhere. I did the internship at the Clay County Chamber of Commerce, and I mean, it was a very, very helpful experience for learning, especially about the business field, especially in business management more so than entrepreneurship, which both very important. But I worked a lot on the Pumpkin Chunking Festival, which was fun. You know, I got to see a community event come together, helping that, and that was good. And then also helped a lot with just day-to-day operations there. I did a lot of mailing, wrote some letters to people. It was good, educational stuff. Probably the highest point was the pumpkin chunking. I enjoy things like that. And then on to the next person. We don't want to cut them off.
Thanks, Jackson.
So my name is Cameron Gray, and I did the Blue Ridge Mountain EMC, and I was under Alex King in the broadband department. I did mostly data entry my entire time. The two main things I took from it were learning about the business field, mainly learning who to ask questions, how to ask questions, and just solve the problems. Also, my Excel skills were increased a lot. I worked so much on it, so I learned a lot in the business field. I was able to talk to a lot of upper level people and was able to learn quite a bit. So.
Just real quick, Cameron, what do you think you learned from that experience that you really couldn't have learned in the classroom?
I mean, you can't really, like, going to talk to your boss is, like, your teacher, I guess, is kind of your boss, but nothing really relates to it. And also, just, like, the overall environment of the workplace is so much different than a classroom. Like, you do learn a lot in classrooms and work, but it's very different.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nimsi Lopez, and I did an internship at Big Bear Vet Clinic in Hayesville. The reason why I chose to do the internship, especially in a veterinary clinic, is because I've always loved animals, and I always thought that I would like a career that involved them, but I just wasn't sure. So I definitely needed this, and then the opportunity was given to me, and I'm so glad I took it. I was able to care for the animals. I was able to take them for walks and to feed them and give them water. And I was also able to take heart, respiratory, and temperature rates. I was able to monitor patients during and after surgeries. And I made them feel loved and safe, which was my favorite part of being there. I also did chores such as clean cages, rooms, clean the tools they use for surgeries, and other simple things like take out the trash and just make sure of the tiny things that, because they're so busy, they don't have that time to do it. So as an intern, I made sure that I was helping in every way that I could. I observed many surgeries, some of them including an amputation, some toxicology treatments, radiology scans, nutrition counseling, emergency and critical care. The most common ones were dentistry, space, and neuters, the most common ones that I saw over there. And I learned many things from this experience. I learned that a vet's office is never boring. You never know what can walk in the door. I learned that not all the vets are the same. They specialize in different things. But while I was there, I saw them mostly do everything. And I admire that from there. And I realized that the job is not easy at all. And because of that, they work under pressure a lot of times. And many people just quit or either get fired. And while I was there, I saw that. So that was a great experience. And I saw the good and the bad things. So I just want to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity of my very first internship. And I have to say, I really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Addie Bunch, and I spent my internship this fall at Remax Mountain Properties in Murphy. And I would say that I've been thinking about real estate for about a year prior to that. Flying just wasn't my thing. And I knew it right out the gate, but you guys really opened the door for me to meet people and get connections. And over this semester, I spent most of my days taking frequent field trips out of the office. I got to show a few houses, terminate a few listings, feed some people's fish. But yeah, overall it was a lot of fun, and I met a lot of people and had a lot of laughs, and yeah, so that's my passion. And I also learned that the two The best and the worst parts of being a real estate broker is getting to work with people. We manage a lot of people's emotions. But the possibilities are endless, and so I just want to say thank you for opening that door for me. Appreciate it.
Yes. What's Ravonda's?
I just want to take a minute to thank all of our internship sponsors for allowing our students to have these real-life, real-world experiences. And thank you, Mr. Cole and school board members, for letting our students present tonight.
Students, could you guys come up to the desk here and we'll take a picture, please, before you get out the internship, students? Oh, you're not getting out of here without a picture. Yes. We'll kind of work around it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Next, we have Mr. Overman with the high school fall sports all conference athletes.
Good evening, Clay County and Board of Education. Thank you for having us here tonight. Athletics at Hayesville High School are really not just an extracurricular activity. I would call them a co-curricular activity. They go hand in glove with our vision and our mission and what we're trying to instill in our students. There's been a lot of talk lately about Portrait of a Graduate, and if you think about those 7 competencies or characteristics, adaptability, communication, critical thinking, I don't know them all by heart yet. Empathy, learner's mindset, and personal responsibility. Those are all things that you learn on the field or on the course. So they're really important to what we do at the high school. So first, we're going to introduce some of our students. Let's see, let me get this in sort of the right order. Mr. Moss and Miss Moss were not able to be here tonight. Do we have any cross-country runners here? Come on up, cross-country. All right, let's see now. Here's who we have. These were all honorable mention in the conference with cross country. So we have first Marley Espinal. Marley, congratulations. Landon Hughes. Raylan Wood. Cameron Gray. Are you really excited? You want to take these to these guys? The last 2 on here were Cannon Brewer and Kason Krieger. So congratulations to them. You want to take those for them? Thank you. All right, you want to get a picture real quick?
Yep. Congratulations, guys.
Good job. Next, we have volleyball. Coach Dills, you want to come up? Tammy Dills. Coach has a sore throat tonight, so she asked me to announce their names, and she'll hand these out.
I told him I would listen to all these songs.
You don't believe that, do you?
You guys can hear me at the games. That's what you can look forward to.
All right, volleyball players, let's see. To start off, do we have Phoebe here tonight? Phoebe Patella. Phoebe is a sophomore, and she is our libero, and she was honorable mention for the Smoky Mountain Conference. Tonight we have Mallory Peck, a sophomore middle. I know I saw Mallory here. Mallory, come on up. Mallory was also honorable mention for the conference. Great job. I know. Another sophomore middle who was all conference was Madison Moore, sophomore. Come on up, Madison. senior, Emma Shook. Let me tell you a little bit about Emma. Emma was the Smoky Mountain Conference Setter of the Year. She was all conference this year, and in her 4 years with Lady Jackets volleyball, she had over 1,000 assists, which is just tremendous. So, great job.
Nothing.
All right.
I'm gonna miss her. I'm gonna miss my senior. But if you can tell, also, if I give a little speech, is we have 3 small sophomores that got awards, so that does speak volumes of our program that's coming. So we've got that coming up, and so I look forward to years to come. But Emma knows we're gonna miss our seniors too. Yes.
All right, next we have football. Football guys, come on in. I think 4 of them just came from basketball practice. But we appreciate Coach McClure being here tonight. Want to do the, yeah, absolutely.
Again, I'd like to thank the board and Dr. Cole for giving us this opportunity to spotlight some of our student athletes. And I want to thank you guys for the messages during our season, you guys that can make it to games. I think that speaks volumes of you guys. So we had a great season. We had 6 guys that were nominated for the all-conference teams. First of all, we had Isaac Chandler, Jr., honorable mention kicker in the conference. If you guys have seen this guy kick, he can boot it.
He can boot it.
So, next, honorable mention all-conference Kyle Lunsford. Kyle's a senior, had a great career for us. Honorable mention all-conference Logan Caldwell, quarterback. In my opinion, the best quarterback in the conference. Ended up throwing for around 4,000 yards in his career. So we're going to miss these seniors we got. Senior Avery Leatherwood, all-conference. All-conference tight end for us. Play a little bit of defense too. Taylor McClure. He was a junior for us. He was all-conference at linebacker. And last, our lineman, Lane Odell, all-conference. Lane was selected by the other coaches as an all-conference offensive lineman. If you know anything about our conference, it's all about lines, so that means a lot. So I could go through and talk about these guys' individual statistics, but I just wanted to highlight just a few things that these guys led their team to do. Second winning season in 15 years here at Hayesville High School. First home playoff win in 20 years. They led their team to be awarded the North Carolina High School Athletic Association Team of the Week with their upset win in the second round of the playoffs over Christ the King. And they're the 5th team in school history to advance to the 3rd round of the state playoffs or beyond. So it's quite an accomplishment, not only for these guys, but their team. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Y'all do that.
I wanted to do the sorority squad.
Congratulations, guys. Good job.
Good job, guys.
All right, in our final fall sport for this evening, we have men's soccer. We had a new coach this year, rookie, wet behind the ears coach, Mike White. Come on up. I'm just kidding. Mike is a very experienced soccer coach. He definitely knows what he's doing, knows what he's talking about, and what was exciting to see how he developed the team as well and got them behind what he was doing. So I'll turn it over to Coach White and let him introduce his 3.
I got info on. No, actually, Yeah, Coach White. I coached the men's soccer team in the fall. Who knew we had a soccer team? First team they had in first complete season they had in 3 years. Most everybody who had played for us had graduated, so they started out with a lot of inexperience this season. Okay, ended up middle conference. I was not disappointed. Okay, made it to the first round of the playoffs, but I was pleased with that. I'm looking for better, more success next year. Okay, but there were a lot of players who really stepped up to make that happen. Okay, and we've got two that aren't here, Kevin Kleckner and an exchange student, Jacopo Matacari. He was from Italy. He was a great little ball player for us. He's leaving to go back on Friday. He says he's not ready to go home. So I get it, but we won't have him next year, and we'll miss him. But they all every player contributed a lot. So anyway, Kevin and Jacopo both got all conference honorable mention. We had one player who made all conference, and actually he got all conference playing in the position that he wasn't even really slated to play when the season started. Had a couple injuries early on, had to do some realignment of personnel, and moved him into a new position that he hadn't had a lot of experience at, and great attitude, stepped up, tried to do everything it was asked of him, and he showed. The other coaches in the conference recognized him as well, and so our all-conference player for the soccer team was Isaac Chandler.
By yourself, Isaac.
Good ones.
We probably could have stood around you. We didn't have that.
Very good. Congratulations and
the audits and
very good. Congratulations to all those folks, and we appreciate Mr. Overland for you coordinating that and getting everybody here, so thank you. Most everybody, so thank you for that. Next, we have our report section of the agenda, and the first item there is Mr. Alan Thompson with the audit report.
You know you're important when everybody leaves before you get out.
And this is the most exciting part.
That's exactly right. Oh man, it's always fun to recognize all the great kids for what they do. So that's definitely more important. You should have a copy of the presentation summary. If you'd be kind enough to flip open to page 1, appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Looks like this. I apologize. That's it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The main reason you hire us as an independent audit firm is to issue an opinion on the financial statements as a whole. We issue an unmodified report, which is a quote-unquote clean report. So all is good there. On page 1, I'm going to read some highlights and along into page 2. There were no significant audit findings on page 2, no difficulties encountered in performing the audit, no uncorrected misstatements, no disagreements with management. Management did provide us a representation letter dated December 21st. We're unaware that management consulted the outside accountants, auditors. There's really only one finding in it, and it's, we talked about, it's just an oversight on a budget where the state paid some money, so it's not a big deal. It's already been responded to, so all is good on that side. Overall records are in great shape. Really appreciate all the cooperation we got from staff. It worked out really good. On page 4, I want to talk a little bit about numbers. I never say these are all the key numbers, but these are some of the key numbers in the audit report. And the purpose of doing this is so you don't have to flip through the audit report and try to find certain things, and also to put some things in context. So if this numbers, or if the numbers in the first column here are some of the key numbers for the June 30, 22 year, what we attempt to do is put the 4 prior years there so you have some context or able to see trends and not just look at an isolated number like fund balance is $285,079, and you can't say, well, that's the highest it's been in the 5 years shown. Then the restricted fund balance, $168,159. The unassigned fund balance, $42,699. General fund expenditures at $1,733,000. Total fund balance as a percentage of general fund expenditures, 6.74, and unassigned fund balance at 2.46%. For schools, these percentages don't have a lot of context, but for municipalities, counties, everybody else, it tends to have a lot more, but we still put them in there just so you're aware of them. To get a true picture, you'd have to add restricted along with the general fund to get a better feel for that. Revenues over and under expenses before transfers. The general fund positive $63,186. The capital outlay was a negative $25,000. Child nutrition was a positive $307,975. Cash and fund balances. Cash in general fund was $10,991, and the other restricted fund is $985. You can see the other restrictives, the highest to be in the 5 years shown. Child nutrition is $598. I do want to say this because it looks out of kilter somewhat. I think in 2018 there was an adjustment. It states right there a restatement of $461,780 due to GASB, which is OPEB, it's other post-employment benefits. It's a non-cash entry talking about what's going to happen in the future, discounting it back to present value and trying to put it on the balance sheet, or putting it on the balance sheet as a liability. It's really paid out over time. In my opinion, it doesn't have a whole lot of impact, but the powers that be say put it on there. It doesn't change the way you run the school district because you budget on an annual basis. This is trying to show some future cost discounted at a present value. It won't change how you do anything. And so that I still made a comment earlier, hey, it was a deficit because of that. The state changes their percentage to adjust for retirement and other things. Same thing happens here. Everything's budgeted annually, no change, really, other than I had to put a number on the balance sheet, or somebody did in 2018. Other restricted fund balance, $991, and then child net position, child nutrition is $246,000. And you can see it's positive this year. Then breakdown of your general fund revenues. I'm not going to read through those and the expenditures, but you can see total general fund revenues at $1,797,000, expenditures at $1,733,000. On the bottom of that page, you see total state public school fund at $12,454,000, which is the highest of any years presented, along with the federal grants fund at $2,915,000, highest of any of the 5 years shown. On the next page, page 5, what I mentioned earlier, the total fund balance there in blue is the highest of any of the 5 years. That percentage on the bottom, as I mentioned, you'd have to compare it with the restricted fund balance to get a good feel for that. On page 6, you see revenues over and under expenses before transfers for the 3 funds, with child nutrition being very strong there, the general fund and capital outlay also shown. On the bottom, you can see what I was mentioning earlier. If you go back to 18 where that adjustment was made, you can see it climbs every year. And I don't know if I mentioned, but you can also track on the bottom of that page 4. I hate to go back. But you can see where cash and child nutrition, even though there was an adjustment there, it never went negative. It was very positive. It went, it's at $598,000 compared to that net position at $246,000. So cash is still very strong and growing every year. So on page 7, You see cash balances at the top, fund balances slash net position underneath that, with total cash balances being $1,595,000 and fund balances being $1,529,000. On page 8, you see the county allocation and fines and forfeitures. On the bottom, you see a breakdown for general fund expenditures. And on page 9, you see the state and federal funds presented with the 12.4 and the 2.9 million dollars there. I do want to make sure I end it correctly. Unmodified report, one finding, which was simply an oversight. The records are in good shape. Overall, everything is good. I'm always happy to take questions, not just tonight. You read through the audit report. One night when you can't sleep, I'm happy to take your call the next morning. If I happen not to be in, you're welcome to ask for my cell number and find me, and I'll get you an answer to your question. And we do appreciate you allowing us to do the audit.
Members of the board, you have the full audit report as well as the book. You also have a digital version of it in your Google Drive if you wanted to get it there.
Any questions or comments, Mr. Thompson?
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming tonight. Next item on the agenda is the Hazel High School Fall State Exam Data Report from Mr. Oberlin.
We took our exams last week, our first semester exams. We've pretty much tested everybody. I think there are a couple of people that were still waiting on results to come back. The English 2 in particular is usually a couple of days, so we had some take that makeup exam on Friday, but pretty much our fall results are in. These are live results. These are actual results that are going towards our school accountability. So we'll start with the next slide. English 2. English 2, that's Carla Beck's area. These were all Carla students, and they were 55.8% proficient, which is right on track with what we've seen in the past. One thing I would point out is that Ms. Beck has an honors section that starts tomorrow with the second semester with 30 students in it. So I think we'll see that percentage come up some by the end of the year. All right. In Math 1, 59.1% proficient. That's really tremendous, actually, for Math 1. That's a strong increase from last year, which was a strong increase from the year before. And credit for this goes to Mrs. Gabby Smith. These 44 students were all hers, so we were really pleased with that. So good job, Ms. Smith and her students. In Math 3, this is Ms. Pewett's classes. She had 52 students test last week, and right at just under 70% proficient, which tracks right along with Ms. Pewett's normal performance. And then in biology, this is a nice rebound from what we saw last year. Biology was one of those things that kind of took a little bit of a dip during COVID, and now we're back up where we were before COVID with a 70% proficient. These results are combined from Zach Moss and Kaylee Lewis, and they were both right there at that 70% proficient area. So those were our 4 EOC areas. End of course exams. Now I've got some CTE results too. In accounting 1, this is Mrs. Bobby Jones, 87.5% proficient. That was a small group. Accounting is a tough test, and to have 87% proficient is really great. Also for Miss Jones was project management. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Business Essentials is actually Mr. Penland's, and this is a new course. The test is actually still in the field testing version, but almost 92% proficient for Will Penland's class. That's really, really good. I know I keep saying that the same over and over, but it really is. That's tremendous. Wait till this one. Look at that. 100% for Mrs. Bobby Jones, Project Management 1. That's a tough test too. This is a fairly new track for us at the high school. The students that complete Project Management 1 and 2, they can get a certification that Mrs. Jones assures me they could go right out and get a really good job in project management with just that certification. I forget the letters for it. PMPI or something like that. I don't remember.
I can't remember the exact letters either, but I will say also that 24 kids, that's a class at max capacity for a CTE class. And for all of them to be proficient is, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's unusual. Maybe it's becoming more usual these days, I don't know. Ag Mechanics 1, this is Mr. Silas Brown's class. Pretty small class, 13 students, almost 70% proficient. Fantastic. Silas's other class is Horticulture 1, and that is over 80%. That's almost 82% proficient in a pretty good sized class there. So we're really pleased with the results from Silas's students this fall. Health Science 1, this is a couple of different classes. This is Amy Trout and Christy Caruso. And they both got very, very similar results, which are outstanding, 93% proficient. So they should be very proud of their students' work on that. Automotive fundamentals, we have 3 automotive testing areas. The first one is automotive fundamentals, almost 65% proficient. Automotive 1, just a touch over 71% proficient. And then Auto 2 is a pretty small class, only 4 students, but 3 of those 4 were proficient. So very proud of that. And those students in there are, again, they're able to go straight from Hayesville High School into the workforce and get good paying jobs at our mechanic shops and auto dealers here. Foods 1, this is a new teacher this year, new to the high school, Mrs. Michelle Reinhardt. Michelle's Foods 1, this was 2 different sections combined, so a little over 30 students and 77% proficient. Very, very happy with that. And then her Foods 2 class is a lot smaller. There were only 4 students in that class, 3 of whom were proficient. So, that's our results for the fall. We're happy with it, never satisfied, but happy, if that makes sense. And we look for big things this spring semester as well. Any questions for me about these? I know that's a lot of numbers in a hurry.
It's impressive.
Yeah. We had a staff meeting this morning. There were a lot of smiles.
Yeah.
A lot of golf claps. So.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Oden.
Thank you.
Next up, Ms. Rich with the middle school.
That's a tough act to follow.
Thank you.
So, our proficiency rate is not quite as high, but I'm still proud of my teachers and my students. I feel like we're moving in the right direction. We still have some work to do, but we're in it to win it. So, my glasses, I can't see with that one.
So if you look at that first bit, I think it's reading, the first slide, you'll notice that we have 50% at Tier 1, which is shows like proficient. That's up from 46%. I think that's actually supposed to be 51%. I'll put 50 on there. I want to give them every bit of credit that they deserve. And we still have our numbers going in the right direction. Our greens are going up and our reds are going down. Still not quite at a percentage that I'd like to see. I'd like to see that around 70%, but we have work to do, so we're good there. So proud of that 50% right now, actually 51, okay. Next one is math. Math is our Achilles heel. This is kind of where we have work to do, and we have some plans in place for that I'll talk about on another slide. But this is, we recognize this, and we're working in PLC to address this. So, I mean, this is historical actually. When I look at the data from last year and the year before, these are the same numbers. So we're just doing right along. But that's not good enough for me. I'm very competitive, so. I told Ms. Dills I'm very much like her in that sense. I don't even like to come in second. So we got lots of work to do, and we're gonna make it happen. Okay. Here, I just want to point out that you can see that we have our Tier 1s growing. So I was proud of this. Our ELA worked really, really hard. This is where I feel like we're in a groove right now. We've got our interventions going. We have our groups going. So I feel like we're moving in the right direction here. And you have to realize that we just started our interventions right before Christmas. So we've done a lot of work toward that. And so now I'm just looking forward to what's going to happen from this point forward. And like I said, we're kind of rocking and rolling here with the ELA. Next slide. Math again. We still have growth here. Not as much growth, but we still have growth here. Our greens are going up and our reds are coming down.
But like I said, this is where we're going to focus our efforts from this point forward, trying to get our math up as well. And what I wanted to just point out here is this is our percent of students below grade level. It's kind of our needs analysis. For ELA, we looked at last year's data and we noticed that informational text was difficult for our students. And so we had to focus on that the first semester. So you can see our numbers are going down there with below grade level. Vocabulary has been something that we've not done well on. So we've actually bought 2 programs, one for Tier 1 and one for Tier 2 and 3, to address like our vocabulary issues, and so we've got those up and going now. So hopefully those numbers will come up by the next time we look at iReady data. Math, you can kind of see it's all over the place. Geometry is probably our lowest. Numbers and operations are strength. But the numbers are all over, so this is just where we're going to focus the most of our efforts this point forward. Here's our next steps. We plan on purchasing some math intervention materials, and we do have those picked out now. We want to visit some other schools in our district to look at small group and intervention time, because that's new to the middle school. That's not something they've done historically, and so they don't really know what that looks like or how that should be done. Melissa and Heather are going to allow us to do that, so we're looking forward to that. We're going to change our instructional delivery methods during our block. We're going to kind of structure that different to where it's not 55 minutes of just standing and talking. Kind of get some small group things going in every classroom, some peer and group work going among the students, and I think that'll help too. Just changing it up. I feel like we've done things for so long the same way. We got to do something different to make something different happen. We're going to continue our PLC work, use some data to drive what teachers do in the classrooms. And something really big for me, and this is just something I learned as an elementary teacher, you got to increase that rigor in your classroom and hold those kids accountable and raise those expectations. And I feel like that's something that needs to happen in the middle school, so we're going to work on that as well. We're going to continue to motivate students to perform best on iReady, and I think in the middle school, by the time they leave elementary and primary, they're over iReady, and so it's really, really hard to get them motivated, but that's going to be a focus for us as well, is kind of put some incentives out there for teachers and students to get them to do their best on the test. I feel like if you don't have like their true assessment on the test scores, then you don't really know where you're working, so we need them to do their very best so we know where they really are. And then the last thing that we want to do is some fidelity checks during instruction and intervention time, just to make sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do. So there's where we are. Any questions for me?
Any questions?
I did have one question, because I didn't look at this piece of data. What is the difference in numbers that between who took the beginning of year diagnostic and the middle of year diagnostic? Was there a big difference? Are you still missing a lot of test scores, or?
I don't know the exact number, but I know that most everybody in 6th and 7th took it. 8th grade had the majority, had the most missing, with 9 students that did not take it.
There are 9 students that did not take it. That are not a part of the MOY data. So. Correct. And 9 students is enough.
Which is something that, right.
Our size, that it does make a difference. I would just say, we're working on making some instructional changes, thinking about instruction a different way, and I think particularly at the middle school, the academic results at the middle school in the last, I would say 3 to 5 years have been very, very consistent. In both reading and math. And if you want different results, you gotta do things a different way. And so a lot of the things that Ms. Rich is talking about are things that have been proven to be very successful at the elementary school level that can be replicated in a middle school. We just have to have the desire and motivation there to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rich. Thank you. Next, we have the elementary school, Ms. Godfrey.
You might remember that last year when I gave this presentation, I was sick and I had to do it virtually. So I'm thankful to be here and share with you the great things that are happening at Hayesville Elementary, and also kind of our goals for the spring semester. So first, I'm just going to share with you about reading overall. Overall, you can see from our beginning of year to middle of the year, our greens increased 21%, our yellows decreased 7%, and our reds decreased 14%. So that's always what we want, for those reds and yellows to be shrinking and the greens to be growing, so we're happy to see that. I'd also like to point out, if you look on the right-hand side, it has a breakdown by domain, and very faintly underneath each of the lines you can see what the beginning of year scores were. And so I particularly wanted to point out that PH, which is phonics. If you look at the beginning of the year, you're going to see quite a large red at the beginning of the year, and that's shrank quite a bit. And so we have focused our Tier 3 work on phonics for our students requiring Tier 3, and we've also fully implemented foundations at grade 3. And so that was something we got mid-year last year. That program came in. It took us forever to get it, even though it was ordered in the summer. And so we didn't get the full benefit of that program last year. And so that was one of the areas I wanted to look specifically at, because we've put a lot of work into that area, and you can see that red area shrinking quite a bit. So we're really proud of that. Also want to point out that last year, we tested in January. This year we tested in December. And so some of the benchmarks that we're looking for are a little bit different this year because we tested a little earlier. We're trying to balance out the test between fall and spring so that it's not that our kids are testing all the time, it seems. So we tried to balance that out. So we did have the required 12 weeks between beginning of year and middle of year, but we, looking at comparisons from last year to this year, there is a difference in when they tested. So on the next slide, it shows a breakdown by grade level. And so I think this is important just to make sure that our processes are working at each grade level. And so what I'd like to point out is in all grade levels, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, our reds have been cut in half at least, and some more than half. So you can see that 5th grade went from 33% red to 15% red. 4th grade was 13% red to 6% red, and grade 3 was 34% red to 17% red. So we're really proud of that work. And then in all grade levels, we increased our greens, especially in grades 3rd and 5th. We had really significant jumps there in 3rd and 5th grade. On the next page, this just shows our median growth. So our goal at this point in the year is 50%, and you can see that all of our grade levels we're able to achieve that with median growth. 3rd and 5th again had very high growth. The second column shows how many students have already met their typical growth by December. So typical growth, just as a quick reminder, is a goal that is set for each student based on their beginning of year score, and that's the goal that we would expect them to meet by the end of the year. And so 60% of our 3rd graders have already met that, 41% of our 4th graders, and 70% of our 5th graders. And so we're really proud of, really proud of that. On the next slide, it shows a breakdown by growth based on their initial placement, their baseline placement. And so the reason this slide is really important is because as we work to implement our MTSS framework, the goal is meeting all students' needs, regardless of where they fall on the academic spectrum. And so as you can see there, our growth was really high in 4 out of our 5 categories. And so again, we continue to struggle with that mid to above grade level, getting them to show growth in iReady. And so that is our instructional priority moving forward. But I am happy to say that 36% of those students have already met their typical growth for the year. So even though that bar looks a little smaller than the others, 36% meeting at mid-year is pretty significant. But all the other bands are 50% or higher of already meeting their typical growth for the year. So just a couple of highlights about reading. We are using the iReady program to strengthen our iReady scores, and so using that personalized instruction, their personalized path. So students can access this at home, and we encourage students to do that, but we do not send devices home, so that's one limitation. They have to be able to have a device at home to do that, but the average time spent is 10 hours and 38 minutes per student. We have an 81% pass rate for all of the lessons that have been completed in iReady, and again, our instructional priority is those mid to late students who are already green when they come to us. So that's our priority in reading moving forward. Next, we'll talk about math. As you know, last year we had significant gains in math. We grew 15% overall on EOGs, but when EVOS came out, we did not meet growth, and so that's something that our teachers have taken to heart and are working really hard to make sure that they're meeting students' needs in math. You can see that our greens have improved by 32% since the beginning of the year. We've decreased our yellows by 22% and decreased our reds by 11%. So super proud of that growth. On the next slide, you'll see our breakdown by grade level. And you're going to see that in every grade level, we had huge jumps in our green. We had almost doubled our greens or better in all grade levels. And again, in our reds, we almost cut them in half or more in some cases. So particularly if you look at that third grade group, you'll remember our third grade teachers had the second highest math scores in the state last year, but they've cut their reds from 21% to 5% in 3 months. So I think that's pretty remarkable. So kudos to them. All of our grade levels are doing great things, and I'm so very proud of them. If you look on the next slide, it'll show you our growth by grade level. Again, our goal is 50%. All of our grade levels have met that. You can see that one thing to just point out specifically is that 46% of our fifth graders have already met their typical growth for the year. So I want to point that out. On the next slide, you will see this is our progress by baseline placement. And so this really shows us that our MTSS process is working in math because our growth is pretty much consistent among all of our grade bands. And so you'll see that our mid to above grade level was higher in math than reading. So I was very proud of that. And you can see there that we've got students already meeting their typical growth, anywhere from 20% to 30% of students in all bands. So that's school-wide, but that's something that we're proud to see that the work that we're putting into place is working for all of our students. Just a couple of highlights for math. We are averaging 12 hours and 52 minutes per student for the year so far on those personalized instruction. And we have a 96% pass rate in math. And our instructional priority really is making sure that what we see in iReady transfers over to EOGs, and making sure that that hard work that our teachers and our kids are putting in pays off on EOGs, and we'll be able to meet growth in math this spring. That's all I've got. Do you have questions for me?
Any questions or comments from you? No?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guess I'm next, right? Okay. All right. So I was going to go over a couple of different assessment tools that we have. We're going to look at M-Class and iReady. The difference being M-Class is delivered one-on-one with a student and a teacher, so it's a one-on-one setting. We only have that for reading, and then iReady, as they have already explained to you, is the student on a device, and that's for reading and math. So we're going to look at M-Class first.
And just as a reminder, we have 2 reading assessments because we were already using iReady, and then the state selected M-Class as their state required assessment. So we're having to do both right now.
So it actually gives us a great, it's just more data points. I really actually like having that extra level to look at. So you can go ahead, Adrian, to the first slide. So the way that we have structured our M-Class assessments is we have an MTSS team, and that means we have a teacher from each grade level, our instructional coach, our interventionist. They work for 2 solid days. We get subs for them, and they go and pull and assess those students through the day. So that way it's consistent. So if I assess Missy for the MOY or beginning of year BOY, I'm going to assess her again MOY and EOY. So it's just some consistency for the student and for the teacher. And so you can see what our results were. This is kindergarten, so I have these broken down by grade level. The top line, you have your composite score or overall, and it shows the MOY, and which is below, and then the BOY, which is above. So you can see we're moving that red, which is below grade level, or well below, as this refers to it, pretty significantly overall. Down in the two last sections, letter sounds and decoding, you'll see like a striped line. And what the assessment does is it discontinues. If the student is not being successful, they don't make them sit there and just keep trying. And this at the beginning of the year in kindergarten, you have students who are not familiar with any letter sound. So that striped line you can see extends way across the page. And even though we still have 22% in the red, at the first assessment, we weren't even able to assess about 53% of the students. So I think that that's a significant increase when you look at it in that regard. You can go on to first grade now. So first grade, this is our data there. One of the biggest increases that we had is in what's called phonemic awareness. That's the third section down. And that phonemic awareness is identifying and manipulating the individual sounds in spoken words. And so that's a big skill that students are working on in first grade. Kindergarten, they've mastered the letters and the letter sounds, and now they're putting those sounds into words and being able to decode those and break those apart. All right, you go on to second grade. And this is our second grade data, and you can see there are more categories here because at the bottom you get into reading accuracy and reading oral reading fluency. And those don't exist in the kindergarten and first grade assessments, and those are added to when they get to second grade. All right, so some of the highlights from our M class that we were able to just kind of extract. In kindergarten, the number of students at or above benchmark overall increased by 37% from beginning of year to middle of year. In first grade, that increase was about 15%. And in second grade, one of the greatest notable marks was the number of students at or above benchmark in word reading fluency increased by 17% from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. So that's just some of the overall highlights from M class. Does anybody have any questions about M class or how that's measured or anything? All right, you can go on, and now we're going to look at iReady, which is the same data that the elementary school and the middle school use. So you can go ahead and this is our overall in reading. So overall, you can see the increase in our green has tremendously grown from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. This one, I have this in the what's called the 5-level placement, so it breaks it down by 5 ways instead of by 3. And we all have the ability to do that in any way. So they had triangles, I use lines. It's all the same data. All right, you can go ahead to the next one. This is our kindergarten. And not to get into the specifics, the colors are pretty easy to read for themselves. You can see the tremendous increase in the green and the decrease in yellow. If you'll remember, we've discussed this before. In kindergarten, there are generally no red because you can't be 2 grade levels below kindergarten as a measurement. So, all right, go ahead to first grade. There's our first grade data. Again, we're moving that green over and decreasing the yellow and decreasing our reds as well. All right, and then in second grade, that's a glimpse at our second grade. I feel really good about that. The amount of students that we have at or above grade level has grown, has doubled. And then if you can see it well, it's the striped green. Those are the students who are really on grade level or above grade level. So, or actually those are above grade level, and then just the green is on grade level. So that's the overall reading. And then I'm going to go ahead and go in through the iReady math. I do want to say you'll probably note that there's growth, but it's not as significant as it is in reading. And I think at the primary school, I feel really confident about the tiers of interventions that we've put in place for reading. And that is our initiative this year. Just like Missy was saying, we have just ordered and just received some math materials that we're using for our tier 2 and tier 3. We've got our math team is piloting those so that we can kind of make some decisions on what really works best, what's user friendly, what's most effective for students. So we're piloting those in the classrooms now, and we hope to be able to make a decision this summer. What do we want to use for tier 2? What do we want to use for tier 3? And then move forward. Another thing that we don't have that the reading does is the M class. I love especially for the little guys, that one-on-one assessment piece. You just get really good data that way like you do in reading. With a tablet, it's hard to say that that's quite as accurate, especially with the younger students. So those are just some areas that we are seeking to correct through our actions. So this is, again, overall. You can go ahead and go to the next one, Adrienne. This is our kindergarten data. We are seeing some big gains there in our green. We're definitely making some growth with our math students in kindergarten. You can go ahead to first grade. Not quite as significant in first grade as we had seen in kindergarten. So we've got some work to do there. And you can go ahead, and then there's our second grade. We've got some really strong second grade math skills coming out, so I'm really pleased to see those developing. And I feel confident by EOY end of year that we'll see some even better results. So this is pretty telling of where we are at the difference in our increases in math versus our increases in reading. So in kindergarten, our math increased by 25%, and we're looking at the number of students that are at or above grade level from beginning year to end of year. So in math, it was 25%, in reading, it's 40%. If you look at the same set of parameters in first grade, in math was 11%, reading was 23%. And in second grade, math was 17% and reading was 36%. So this makes me very hopeful that these interventions that we're putting in place, that we've done for reading, are effective. And hopefully that motivates us too to be like, we've got to get something in place for math that's going to work that, just as well. So, I wish we had it now. I wish I could come to you and be like, these numbers are looking great in both areas, but we know that's a weakness and that's something that we are working to correct. So, do you guys have any questions for me?
I noticed that both in reading and math, there was less growth in first grade than in kindergarten and second grade. Do you have anything that you attribute that to? I know that's your largest grade level.
It is our largest grade level. We've had to split the team. We have 8 teachers, so we have 2 teams of 8. 2 teams of 8. 2 teams of 4. Think math. So we don't have common planning. I feel like that's not ideal. I would love for all 8 teachers to be able to have planning together because I think that lightens the burden of planning units. I'm always going to put in a plug for assistants at that grade level. That is the big difference from kindergarten to first grade. We have a lot of volunteers that have been gracious and are helping in those capacities, but just having a full-time assistant makes a tremendous difference because they're still little, and it feels like there is a big difference in a 7-year-old going into second grade and a 5-6-year-old going into first grade, just as far as their ability to self-direct and to work independently. So it's just always going to just put that plug in if that's ever possible. Even floating assistants would be fabulous. So, and that's my perception of the difference in that grade versus the others. Of course, that cohort of students moves to second grade next year, and we'll have to do the same thing there. We'll have to split into 2 teams, and they'll have separate planning as well, most likely. So, anything else? All right. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you all for doing that and presenting that. We appreciate the information and the work that's going into all that. So thank you. Next, we have a discussion on a resolution giving local control of the school calendar back to the school boards.
Yes, members of the board, this was a recent thing that came out. A colleague of mine that is the new superintendent in Buncombe County, he shared this with all of the superintendents across the state towards the end of last week. And I think that we as a board, and also pretty much every school board in the state of North Carolina, has made their wishes very clear with the General Assembly, I think, over the last 10 years about the North Carolina school calendar law, and that we think it's in the best interest of students for local school boards to be able to set their own calendar. At a minimum, we would like to be able to align our calendar with the community college. The Buncombe County Board of Education worked on creating a legal document, a resolution that they signed at their last board meeting to then share with their General Assembly members, because in order for us to get local control back of our calendar, the law has to change, and that has to happen at the state legislature. So I wanted to just share this with you for your review over this month. And and I'm gonna probably work on making a Clay County version of this. And I just kind of wanted to get your feelings on whether or not you felt like with some small adjustments, this might be something that the board could get behind with regards to a formal vote at the next board meeting. And this resolution just lists where we are right now and what impacts what negative impacts that has on the students. And there are a number of them. Just for the public, I could say that currently some of the negatives are a late August start date. Start date means that our students are unable to complete the first semester until after Christmas break. So you have a choice, which we've done over the last couple of years. I think last year we chose to have our exams before Christmas break, which meant that we had to shave 10 days off of the instructional calendar in the fall in order to make that happen. And so the spring semester had those 10 additional days. And our teachers, they wanted those instructional days back in the fall semester. So this year we went back to kind of having 2 weeks of instruction when we come back from Christmas break and then having exams. And so we had the extra instructional days, but then we saw the learning loss impact of kids going home over Christmas break for 2 weeks and not thinking about school at all, which I don't blame them at all. That's what holidays are supposed to be, but we always feel like that has a negative impact on our test scores at the high school. So it's just not ideal the way the law is written. Other things, the school calendar law does not align with the community college and university calendars, making it nearly impossible for high school students who graduate at the end of first semester to enroll in college courses in January, because college courses start before or at the same time high school students complete exams. It's well documented through multiple studies that children will experience a phenomenon known as learning loss during breaks, which has a disproportionate impact on low-income children. With little flexibility built into the calendar now, scheduling makeup days is extremely challenging, increasing the likelihood of us having to use unpopular days like spring break and Saturdays as makeup days. We've been fortunate with weather since I've been here, but if we were to have a significant snow event where we had to miss 3 weeks of school, we'd be having to make up days on Saturdays. And I'm thinking our attendance would not be great on Saturday. And then spring break, families look at the calendar, that's when they schedule vacations. So none of that is ideal. Charter schools and private schools don't have to follow the school calendar law. So, we're constantly told that, we're constantly compared to charter schools and private schools. I don't know why, but we are. So, if they have that flexibility, why don't we have that flexibility? So there are just a lot of different reasons. This resolution lists that, and I would just ask the board to consider your thoughts on it and whether you could be in support of approving a resolution like this at our next meeting.
I see here on one, Mr. Cole, where it says Monday closest to August the 26th. And I'm kind of wondering, I thought maybe if we was going to have this resolution that maybe we could start somewhere around August 1st if the school board gets picked that. But are you going to use these same dates in the same resolution?
No, we would not. What this is saying is that whereas currently this is what the law states we have to follow, what we would do if this resolution was, if what we were asking for was given to us by the General Assembly, we would no longer follow that Monday closest to August 26th as an opening date and the end date no later than the Friday closest to June 11th. That's what we currently have to follow.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, see, I thought that was what you were going to just copy this.
No.
This is no good.
Yeah,
we're just going to be doing the same thing that the state requires.
We're saying, whereas that's where we are right now, this is what the state requires, we're saying we shouldn't be held to that.
Okay.
We should be able to do what's best for our school district in the interest of local control, which is What we're trying to work through in every other category of state government is more local control. We feel like we could, first of all, be given local control of our calendar.
We have a committee to look at that, as we always do. I mean, we have in the past had people look at.
We currently have a calendar committee that has just started its work. Ms. Becky Stewart runs that committee. But right now, we're building that calendar based on we're going to have to follow the school calendar law. The purpose of bringing this resolution up now is because the General Assembly is going to be coming into their long session this spring. And that is the time for school boards to get together and show solidarity on some things that they'd like to see happen. And this is one of those things that certainly I would like to see happen. That's why I just didn't know where the board stood on this.
I think having local control over the calendar would be a huge benefit. Yeah. That would be good. So read over this. Questions or comments, we can email those to you between now and February?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you for that. Next, we have discussion regarding the request for a raise in the local supplement funding for teachers from the 1.5% salary to a flat $1,500 per year, which would be the 3% local supplement.
Yes, I mean, very close to it. The board will recall that last year we asked the county commissioners to fund a 3% local supplement for all teachers to help us retain the staff that we have and recruit future staff. Because in essence, we compete most of all with Cherokee County and Macon County. Clay County had never had a local teacher supplement before. Cherokee County the year before had implemented a 3% local supplement. Macon County had implemented, I believe, a 1.5% local supplement for their teachers. So we did not want to get left behind on that. We asked our commissioners to fund a 3% to help us compete. They voted to implement a 1.5% local supplement for our teachers last year, and that's 1.5% of their salary. And of course, each teacher can have a different salary based on their years of experience and whether they have national board certification, that sort of thing. But the idea was always to then come back this year and try to get it to 3%. I will say since that time, Cherokee County has moved theirs back from 3% to 2.5%. I called around to see again what the other counties were doing. And Jackson County schools, they do a $1,500 a year flat supplement for their teachers. And it doesn't matter about years of experience or national board certification. So a flat supplement is just a lot easier to budget for because you don't have all of that movement every year. And they also gave a $500 per year flat local supplement to each of their non-certified staff. So their custodians, their maintenance people, they get a $500 a year supplement from local government. So Shelley, Ms. Hollingsworth and I are beginning to work on our budget request for next school year. And this is kind of one of the first questions that we had is, does the board want us to pursue moving that local salary supplement up for our teachers or not? So this year, the cost to local government for that 1.5% local supplement for teachers is $117,000 for the year. If the county commissioners were to implement a $1,500 flat supplement for teachers, which would be for the most part on average a 3% local supplement, just easier to manage, then the equivalent for that for next year would be $222,000. So essentially you're doubling the local supplement for teachers. The budget calls for a $500 flat supplement for all non-certified staff would be $63,432. So the combined cost of this, like a total cost, if this were to be implemented next year, a $1,500 a year flat supplement for teachers along with a $500 flat supplement for non-certified staff, the total cost next year would be $285,444 to the county. Again, Cherokee County pays a 2.5% local supplement to their teachers. Jackson County actually pays a $1,700 flat rate, along with $500 for classified. We feel like that this would make us competitive with all districts west of Jackson County. Jackson County is a little different than the rest of the districts because they have a university there. It's a different population, it's higher wealth. And so we feel like if we can be the most competitive in our salary west of Jackson County, that's where we want to be. And to be honest, I feel like our teachers deserve it based on the results that they've got. Our teachers got the best student results last year west of Haywood County as a district. So I feel like they've earned it. I feel like they deserve it. We also need it for competitive recruitment and retention. But I also want to point out that utilities were more expensive this year than we anticipated in every area. And so we are going to have to request additional operational funds to cover the rise in utility costs. But kind of this is the big chunk that we kind of wanted an answer on first. So this is not for action tonight, but if you wanted to discuss, it'll be on the agenda again next month for action about letting Ms. Hollingsworth and I know if this is a direction you would like to go.
Are there any questions or comments about those numbers?
No, and I just appreciate the clarification because when it came across, I wasn't real sure. But I mean, I don't have any additional question. I think you clarified it really well.
Any others? Good? Okay. Very good. Thank you for that information, Mr. Stone. This will be on, make sure I got that, this will be on the agenda in February for approval for that.
That's correct.
Okay. Do we, and this may be too early to tell and put Ms. Hollingsworth on the spot, but is there any idea on the additional operational cost? Like, have you began working on that at all?
No,
Not, okay.
I'm gonna go back and analyze the past few years to see where we've had shortages and then ask for that as well as the additional that hopefully cover next year.
Because that's, I mean, I guess for me, I think the good thing is asking for this. Obviously, we understand the cost that it's increased to run this business, and obviously they're running the business of the county as well. I feel like we're going to have lots of needs, but I also feel like that this is important. I think it's just important for our teachers. I mean, like you said, they've gotten the best results this side of Haywood County. So I think it's nice to show them that we appreciate what they've done, but also that we understand the cost for them to live in Clay County is also going up. And we've got teachers that are having a hard time even finding places to rent. One of that being cost of places to rent, but also the number of places to rent is not readily available. So we want to make sure that the teachers that we have in place, we can keep them here, and when we need to replace them, we're going to be able to recruit quality people like we have. So yes, I think it's important that we do that. Thank you for that info again. So that'll be on February's action item. The next section of the agenda is the action items. And the first action item there is election of the Board of Education leadership. As you guys remember in the policy manual, it states that each January we will elect a chair and a vice chair. So that is up for discussion, nominations for those two positions.
Well, I'll put it in motion that will keep you the chairperson, Mr. Caldwell as co-chair.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so no discussion. If that's motion and a second, then we will. Mr. Caldwell, you okay with that? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank y'all. I appreciate that. Mr. Caldwell, I know.
Did we have a vote on that?
We did not, I guess, have a vote. So all in favor of that?
Aye.
All right, thank y'all. Next, we have a recommendation to approve the official bid from Mr. John Anderson to purchase the property located on Bethel Bear Road. And we had an email from Michael Anderson, who has been helping on that, and there's a letter in there with that purchase price, if you guys want to read through that real quick.
That's the letter from John that I received in the email.
No, that's probably just a printed.
Okay, all right.
Members of the board, the board has to vote to accept this bid before we can move forward with the collecting a 5% deposit from this bidder if you approve it, and then we have to go through the upset bid process.
Are you ready for a motion? Any other discussion of what I'm?
I was just going to ask, and I think from Michael, this was the only.
That was,
Yes.
This was the only bid that we've gotten on it.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, then I will entertain a motion that we accept or decline, whichever.
I'll make the motion we accept.
Mr. Caldwell has made a motion that we accept this bid
I'll
from
second it.
Mr. Anderson. Ms. Beck has seconded that motion. All in favor? All righty. And then, if you don't mind to clarify, what's the upset bid process, or length of time, I guess?
Well,
Do we know that?
I'm going to be working through that with our attorney.
Richard, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I hesitate to speak on that. I've never done that before.
Right.
So,
This is the first one I've ever done,
yeah.
so I didn't know what.
Yeah,
that-
so we're gonna,
okay.
that'll be the next step, is I'll be on the phone with, Mr. Schwartz tomorrow, and we'll instigate the, upset bid process. I don't think it's a long process. I think we should, unless we get upset bids, then that could lengthen it out.
Right.
So,
Has there been any public announcement that there are other bids possible, or anybody aware that there are bids to be made or whatever?
Well, there will be, once
Okay.
we announce the upset bid process, that'll be a public announcement.
Okay.
I think this initial bid was publicly announced.
That's correct.
And so
Right.
now we have to announce that we accepted this bid, but are now in the upset phase of that, whatever that length of time is. Very good. Thank y'all for that. Next, we have the recommendation to approve the Clay County School Board of Education training schedule dates and times, which those are through the virtual training. Mr. Cole emailed those dates to us.
These are videos provided by the North Carolina School Boards Association, for which the board can earn renewal credits toward being board members in the association, which you're required to earn a certain number of credits, I think every year. So this seemed like the easiest way for the board to be able to earn these credits. We can get together, we can watch a video. If we have questions, we can discuss those, and if I can't answer them, then I can get answers. And so, and then we can submit for renewal credit.
And how long are these videos?
So most of them are 1 hour. There are a couple of them, like the first one we did was 2 hours. That was budgets, expenditures, and audits. So we felt like that was a very timely topic before having the audit report tonight. That one was 2 hours. But the only other one that is 2 hours is one we're planning to do in May: ethics, conflicts of interest, and board members' legal duties. The rest of them are pretty much an hour to an hour and a half.
How many credits you said we supposed to have? 3, correct?
I think it's 3 per year.
And Mr. Schwartz always has us, how many credits we get out of listening to the attorney?
It depends on how long the session is, because it typically goes by time.
We go an hour, 2 hours.
Right.
So therefore we get 2 credits per with him on that.
Mm-hmm.
Do we get any other credits for any of the work that we do, per se, as far as board meetings or any other thing?
only if you attend a training session somewhere else. You don't get credit for board meetings. You have to attend some kind of training outside of the board meeting, unless the board is getting together for a work session that is for training. But you can't count a board meeting as training.
Building committee, or when we're having, like we did, none of that either.
Any questions or comments on those dates? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. Crawford, is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Ms. Beck, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have the budget amendments. Ms. Hollingsworth.
Okay, I just have a few this evening. We'll go over the State Public School Fund first. On that one, we are budgeting an additional $141,190. This amendment includes our $14,517 for a guaranteed allotment for the school psychologist position. And again, that's a guaranteed allotment, so we want to make sure we have enough funds budgeted for that actual salary and benefits. The original budget is based on what they give us as an average, so I wanted to go ahead and make sure we had enough for the actual person holding that position. The next one is $38,063. That is the longevity, annual leave, and bonus leave payouts for anybody that's state funded, and that is also a guaranteed allotment. We have less $31 in school technology fund, and they had to come back and do an adjustment to the prior month where they had released some funds, and that was a correction that they made at the state level. Behavioral support, an additional $75,000. The third grade reading bonus, which these bonuses for test results will be released at the end of this month. We received $7,639 for that, and then an additional $6,002 for other test result bonuses, and that's for a total of $141,190. The next one's for the local current expense fund, and this is not an addition in funding, but it's going ahead and taking the budget and aligning it with actual expenses, and the majority of these is due to us releasing that first round of our 1.5% supplement, and I needed to go ahead and align that with the correct purpose codes that those staff members are actually paid from. We originally just budgeted in one line item, but some of those teachers and instructional staff are paid from different purpose codes, so we needed to go ahead and align that with the chart of accounts. Okay, the next one is the federal grants fund. We're budgeting an additional $12,616. That's for an additional $2,540 for student support and academic enrichment, and then an additional $10,076 for release of ESSER 3 monies for a principal retention supplement. And this is so we can hold harmless any principal that may have seen a drop in their salary due to previous year test scores that are still related to COVID. And the last one is our Fund 8, which is our other specific revenue fund, and we're going ahead and we're budgeting the $90,300 that we received for the Dogwood Health Trust grant.
That's for open enrollment.
And that's all I have this evening.
Any questions or comments from Ms. Hollingsworth regarding the budget amendments? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve those.
Make a motion to approve the budget.
Mr. Jones, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Caldwell, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hollingsworth. And next we have the consent agenda. There is the board meeting minutes for December the 19th regular session and the January 3rd special called session, policy updates, and the administrative regulations for approval. And those were in your Google Drive. So, is there a motion that we approve the consent agenda as it's presented?
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Ms. Beck, is there a second?
I was just gonna make a comment.
Okay, sure.
No, that's fine. The policy updates, best I can see on that, Mr. Cole and Mr. Talkership and others, is references. So we really didn't have, that I saw much other than just clarification.
Seems that, to me, I thought the same, like legislative references or clarification.
There were no new policies. It was all existing policies, just changes in legal references. But whenever they do that, you have to
Remove the policy.
Very good. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. No. So we have a motion by Ms. Beck for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Crawford seconds that. All in favor? Thank you. Next is closed session. So I'll entertain a motion that we go into closed session for those.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Caldwell second. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
He will.